Let me start that over. I was reading along. I didn't even know I was muted. Sorry about that. And I'm supposed to be the expert. Good morning. My name is John Bassinger Flores, and I am the president of this congregation. I use he, him, his pronouns, and it is an honor for me to welcome you here to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Studio City today. Here, values and deeds are the windows to your soul, not the color of your skin, whom you love, the gender pronouns you use, the particular forms of human, sensory, or neurodiversity you may embody, or what your cultural, ethnic, or religious background may be. We are a congregation of religious freethinkers and protectors of civil rights. We are listeners and leaders and learners working to promote acceptance, inclusion, understanding, and equity for persons of all ages. We look for ways to end oppression in whatever forms we find it. After our service today, we'll have time for anyone who wants to go into a breakout room with Reverend Hannah to do that by raising your virtual hand, and we'll put you in a breakout room with Reverend Hannah. It's also an interesting weekend to be welcoming you to the service today. When I signed up for today's spot to do the words of welcome and announcements, I didn't realize I was signing up on the day that is also National Coming Out Day. So it is my great honor as one of the gay queer members of this congregation to welcome all of you here, especially our LGBTQ friends and members and visitors. 32 years ago was the day that National Coming Out Day was first celebrated, and it's a reminder that one of our most basic tools is the power of coming out. One out of every two Americans has someone close to them who is gay or lesbian. For transgender people, that number is only 1 in 10. Coming out, whether it is as a lesbian, gay person, gay man, bisexual person, transgender person, or queer, still matters. When people know someone who is LGBTQ, they are far more likely to support equality under the law. Beyond that, our stories are powerful to each other. And in the spirit of National Coming Out Day, tonight, the Welcoming Church Congregation Committee is presenting the award-winning film Disclosure. This educational film tells the history of how transgender folks are portrayed in the media, so we can learn and unlearn where our stereotypes and prejudices come from. I've actually already seen this movie, and it's very moving, and I encourage everyone who can attend tonight to do so. We'll be live streaming it at 7 o'clock, and we'll put the link in the chat near the end of the service. It's also on our website under the news and events page, as well as on our Facebook page. The Welcoming Congregation Committee really hopes that you can attend. One last announcement I want to make is that we'll be singing 3 hymns that are based on Native American chants this morning. And I want to mention that because we are highlighting Indigenous Peoples Day today. And when we use music in our worship setting that is not from our predominant culture, when it's from Native American traditions or other racial ethnic traditions, there's always a danger of misappropriating the music just to highlight at specific times of the year when we should be celebrating those cultures throughout the year. So I've put a notation on each slide for each hymn of which native peoples each chant comes from. So I encourage you to explore those more deeply. Again, welcome to our service today.
Okay, our call to worship this morning is attributed to the Uti Indians of North America. It's called Earth Teach Me. Earth, teach me stillness as the grasses are stilled with light. Earth, teach me suffering as old stones suffer with memory. Earth, teach me caring as parents who secure their young. Earth, teach me courage as the tree which stands all alone. Earth, teach me limitation as the ant which crawls on the ground. Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle which soars in the sky. Earth, teach me resignation as the leaves which die in the fall. Earth, teach me regeneration as the seed which rises in the spring. Earth, teach me to forget myself as melted snow forgets its life. Earth, teach me to remember kindness as dry fields weep with rain. It is a sacred time, this, and a sacred virtual space, this. Let's begin our sacred time together in song. The earth is our mother.
The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. The earth is our mother, we must take care of her. Hey, young, oh, young, hey, young, young. Hey, young, oh, young, hey, young, young. The sky is our father, we will take care of him. The sky is our father, we will take care of him. Hey, young, oh, young, hey, young, young. Hey, young, oh, young, hey, young, young. The sea is our sister, we will take care of her. The sea is our sister, we will take care of her. Hey, young, oh, young, hey, young, young. Hey, young, oh, young, hey, young, young. The forest is our brother, we will take care of him. The forest is our brother, we will take care of him. Hey, young, oh, young, hey, young, young. Hey, young, oh, young, hey, young, young.
And now please join me in reading the words of our covenant in unison, which will be followed by our doxology, which will be followed by our time for all ages that Bill Weber has a wonderful presentation of today. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, thus do we covenant.
Am I up? Okay, one moment as I get all this done. Good morning, everyone. I am Bill Weber, a proud member of this church and of the Men's Fellowship. And today we're going to talk about the power of community. And we will start with a story of how one community came together after the World Trade Center attacks of 19 years and 1 month ago. The day after the attacks, where over 3,000 people died, local crafters and visual artists spontaneously began decorating an old fence in New York's Greenwich Village. They covered it with tiles, handmade tiles, honoring the first responders, the loved ones they lost, and the spirit of love and hope that found renewed energy that day. The fence became a sacred space, a reminder that when we all stand together, we can heal and triumph over any challenge. For 13 years, over 6,000 tiles were on display until a building was built on the property and the tiles were moved elsewhere. So we are facing different challenges today. A lethal pandemic that has killed over 1 million people worldwide, and racism and inequality that is just as deadly. This church is committed to love, hope, healing, and triumph, and that is why we are building our own wall of tiles. This is a picture of the new wall of love and remembrance that members of the Men's Fellowship put up on the playground fence at the church. There are already 25 tiles up. As you can see, there is plenty of room for each and every one of us to place a tile. As this banner says, that's over the wall, the wall is a place to remember our loved ones, honor those who served, and celebrate the relationships that were lost, found, and strengthened during the pandemic and social unrest of the 2020s. I hope it doesn't last into the 2020s. The wall is made up of wooden tiles. Some are hand painted, some are slickly printed. All carry a personal message of love and remembrance. There are 6 categories of tile. As I show you the tiles we have now, you will see the power that they have when they're all put together. The first category is celebration. And we have one of our members is celebrating his wife who passed away this past year. We have just a glorious let love lead slogan, motto, however you want to call it, from another member. Another category is animal welfare and the environment. And here is a beautiful koala bear by one of our RE students. And a polar bear on an ice floe. Equal rights, especially very important, especially today being the coming out day. We honor all who look for equal rights in all ways of being. This is a beautiful, another RE student. I think this is my favorite with all the colors and the little hearts, black and white hearts, and a rainbow flag. Of course, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's quote, "Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." That's inspirational to be up on our fence. Black Lives Matter is a category. We have some beautifully done. This is from Liam, a black power symbol. I love this one, just the blood red against the black background. I can't breathe. And a BLM with hearts and a rainbow, hoping for equality. There's also a gun violence section, and we have a message to be kind, and a peace symbol from Declan and Nora. And finally, we have the pandemic section. We have a reminder to mask up to save lives. We have a memorial for a friend of mine from high school years who passed due to the COVID. This is also a memorial tile for another friends of mine, also friends of the church who participate in the screenwriters activities that used to meet on Monday nights. who have actually been fighting COVID and finally are free of it. And finally, a thank you to all the healthcare heroes from the Children's Religious Exploration of UU Studio City. This wall is also a fundraiser. We will decorate a tile for you, or you can decorate one yourself for a donation ranging from $0 to $20. We intend this wall to be a sacred space of healing and will invite the greater Studio City community to join us in donating tiles, visiting, and viewing the artwork on display. As soon as we are able to meet in person again, we will hold a ceremony to sanctify the wall. You will receive an email later today asking for your participation. You can also text tiles to 44321. If you wish to donate by text, you'll get back a link to the website where you will find full information about the tile project. Like the people of New York City who came together almost 20 years ago, when we stand together, we will heal and we will triumph. And now I have a 1-minute closing video.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bill, for bringing this beautiful project to our congregation. I'm looking so forward to decorating some tiles with my children. So to change tacks a bit now, indeed, we are honoring Indigenous Peoples Day tomorrow. I have a couple of readings today. The first one is There There by Tommy Orange. This is a novel that depicts kind of a contemporary take on being Native American in our country right now. It's about urban Indians, and it takes place in Oakland. And this is a passage toward the beginning that has a little subtitle, Urbanity. Urban Indians were the generation born in the city. We've been moving for a long time, but the land moves with you like memory. An urban Indian belongs to the city, and cities belong to the earth. Everything here is formed in relation to every other living and non-living thing from the earth. All our relations. The process that brings anything to its current form, chemical, synthetic, technological, or otherwise, doesn't make the product not a product of the living earth. Buildings, freeways, cars, are these not of the earth? Were they shipped in from Mars? The moon? Is it because they're processed, manufactured, or that we handle them? Are we so different? Were we at one time not something else entirely? Homo sapiens, single-celled organisms, space dust, unidentifiable pre-bang quantum theory. Cities form in the same way as galaxies. Urban Indians feel at home walking in the shadow of a downtown building. We came to know the downtown Oakland skyline better than we did any sacred mountain range, the redwoods and the Oakland hills, better than any other deep wild forest. We know the sound of the freeway better than we do rivers. The howl of distant trains better than wolf howls. We know the smell of gas and freshly wet concrete and burned rubber better than we do the smell of cedar or sage or even fry bread, which isn't traditional, like reservations aren't traditional, but nothing is original. Everything comes from something that came before, which was once nothing. Everything is new and doomed. We ride buses, trains, and cars across, over and under concrete plains. Being Indian has never been about returning to the land. The land is everywhere or nowhere. So as our first reading. Now at the center of our service and the center of our lives, let us take time to bear witness to what is in the center of our hearts this morning. It's time for our weekly ritual of sharing our joys and sorrows. You are encouraged to light a candle at this time and or type your joy, sorrow, memory, or hope into the chat. Please precede it with JNS. So our reader knows what is to be read aloud. And today our reader is Ethan Henry.
When a sorrow is shared, it is lessened, and when a joy is shared, it is multiplied. In that spirit, from Terry and Jean, a joy. I am so happy that Cabaret 2020 will be presented via Zoom on Saturday, October 17th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Thank you, Anthony, for pulling this effort together. From Greg Golden, a joy. My knees are 99% well and walking again. From Peter K. Concern, my dad tested positive for COVID 2019. From a Pollock family to everyone, joy and sorrow, a sorrow. Today we are mourning the loss of Ryan's grandmother. We are also deeply grateful that she was able to pass away at 98 in her own bed peacefully. From Jolly, thanks for all the birthday love. From Diane Rowland to everyone, joy for another great SNL with Jim Carrey. From Nicole, sorrow. I am remembering today those who have come to our church seeking a home and did not find it. May they know peace beyond understanding. May we do better. We have to do better. From Melva Watts, a joy. Just had a nice visit with my daughter. I hadn't seen her for a long time because of COVID-19. From John, a sorrow. Another of my high school classmates passed this week. We've had a couple of losses recently, and though I was not close to either person, it hits hard when my childhood peers are dying. From Jolly and Antoinette, sorrow for the Valley generating station still leaking methane into the Sun Valley community over a year after the leak was discovered and hidden from the public.
They don't even have a plan to plug the leak until November. Injustice everywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, my bad. From Jean Hurd, a sorrow, our old friend Don Dolan passed away 2 weeks ago. From Aviva Heston, I am joyful to count my blessings despite this dark year. My family remains healthy and employed. Everything else is extra. From Pam, beautiful memorial ceremony for Julia's dad, Dr. Joseph. And from Rachel, joy that my ballot arrived in the mail safe and sound. And we end by honoring all the joys and sorrows kept in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we all be warmed in the embrace of our community.
Thank you, Ethan. And now I invite you to join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation. After the prayer, we'll have a full minute of meditation, then we'll sing our responsive hymn. Our prayer today is by Gandhi. It is possible to live in peace. If someone with courage and vision can rise to lead in nonviolent action, the winter of despair can, in the twinkling of an eye, be turned into the summer of hope. It is possible to live in peace. Nonviolence is not a garment to put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being. It is possible to live in peace. Nonviolence, which is a quality of the heart, cannot come by an appeal to the brain. It is a plant of slow growth, growing imperceptibly but surely. It is possible to live in peace. If a single person achieves the highest kind of love, it will be sufficient to neutralize the hate of millions. It is possible to live in peace. If we are to reach real peace in this world, and if we are to carry on a real war against war, we shall have to begin with the children. It is possible to live in peace. The future depends on what we do in the present. It is possible to live in peace. Amen. And now let us join in a minute of communal silence.
Ancient mother, I hear you calling. Ancient mother, I hear your song. Ancient mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient mother, I taste your tears. Ancient mother, I hear you calling. Ancient mother, I hear your song. Ancient mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient mother, I taste your tears. Ancient mother, I hear you calling. Ancient mother, I hear your song. Ancient mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient mother, I taste your tears.
So once a month, we give our offering away to a worthy recipient organization. And today is such a day. We're going to be giving today to the North Hollywood Interfaith Food Pantry. And we have Barbara Javits here who is going to tell us more about that. And I'm going to type into the chat the website.
Hi, everybody, and thank you very much for this time. First of all, I'd like to say our deep appreciation to all the groups who are making sandwiches for us on the second Sunday of every month. The other thing I would like to add is that we've been fortunate enough never to close since the onset of the pandemic, notwithstanding that we lost 100% of our volunteers. We have seen our need increase by approximately 43%. And for those of you that love statistics, as of the end of September, we have served almost 30,000 individuals. So basically right now, my wish is that we have community helping community, because we see more and more intergenerational families driving up on Mondays and Fridays. Between these 2 days, we're distributing 320 bags of food a week. And as any of you know that have picked up sort of 12 cans at a time, food is manual, food is physical, and there's no way to bring automation or technology to that. The good news is that we continue to serve. The challenges are that our supply chain is definitely challenged by our wholesaler, who is experiencing its own problems within its supply chain, and moving 7,000 or 8,000 pounds of food a month, which is what we do, isn't so easy right now. So thank you for everything we've done, that you've done for us, and 2 minor asks, if you can are of a mind to do it, is 1, you can always donate food either through our Amazon wish list link, or if somebody wanted to put together a time and a place, I'm happy to swing by the church and pick up food. And the other ask, if you can, or any of your family can, is I am looking for people to help us 1 hour during a month. It's the end of the day around 3:30 on a Monday or Friday, when we're either unloading that food or moving our bags from point to point. So again, I thank you for everything you've done and for being part of our food pantry.
And it's time for our second reading. Of course, during these times of Black Lives Matter, we hear a lot about the slave trade, of course, that is about 400 years ago. But one thing we may not be as aware of is that many Native Americans were enslaved too. And especially right here in California, is what this book is about, A Cross of Thorns, the enslavement of California's Indians by the Spanish missions. In fact, Spanish missions are responsible for killing a full 40% of all California Native Americans. So I'm going to read from the preface here. For more than a century, the terrible reality of California's 21 Catholic missions has been obfuscated by a myth that portrays those compounds as sites where Franciscan friars and Indians peacefully existed, sharing a mutually loving and near idyllic existence, despite mission records and letters written by the founding friars themselves, describing a completely opposite reality. The mission myth continues unabated, ignoring the suffering and deaths of thousands of Indians within those walls. Visitors entering the majority of restored missions cared for by Catholic organizations stroll through ancient colonnades, chapels, carefully trimmed gardens, and walls covered by flowering vines. No mention is made of the darkness that enveloped those sites from 1769 to the 1830s. Across California, streets, playgrounds, and even schools have been named after Padre Junipero Serra, the Franciscan leader who led the effort to found the missions and who advocated that only by using blows and holding them captives in those compounds could the Indians in the missions be civilized, a twisted viewpoint that would claim the lives of tens of thousands of California Indians. Yet Sarah is revered by many in California as a gentle friar who loved and treated the Indians as if they were his children. In Sacramento, on the grounds of the state capitol, there is a bronze statue of Sarah gazing at a map of California marked with the location of each mission. San Francisco has a gigantic statue of Sarah overlooking the entrance to its famed Golden Gate Park. In Washington, D.C., in the National Statuary Hall of the nation's Capitol building, there is a statue of Sarah holding a model of a mission in one hand and a large cross in the other. For decades, the California State Department of Education has required every elementary school in the state to teach fourth grade pupils of the supposed contributions of not only Junipero Serra, but of the missions themselves. Many Californians recall building a model of a mission as a school assignment. It is my hope that this work will put an end to a myth that has existed for far too long. I was first prompted to consider writing this book nearly 8 years ago when I wrote an op-ed article for the San Francisco Chronicle criticizing a proposed US Senate bill to provide $10 million in matching federal funds to help restore the missions. The Senate version of the bill mistakenly described the missions as places where the Indian and Spanish cultures lovingly melded to create California's early way of life. In that article, I described the missions as little more than death camps run by Franciscan friars where thousands of California's Indians perished. My goal was not to oppose the restorations. It was to advocate that if the bill was approved, the truth regarding the treatment of the Indians, including the great numbers who died, be presented at each of the missions. The reaction to the article astounded me. Numerous readers emphatically supported what I had written. One elementary school teacher told me she had refused to teach her pupils anything about the missions because she knew how the Indians had suffered within them. Others praised my piece, telling me it was about time the truth was told about the missions. Shortly after the article's publication, I learned it had been read in its entirety into the United States Congressional Record by then Congressman Jim Gibbons of Nevada, who cautioned that, in the wake of my article, care should be given in the wording of the Senate bill in view of the Indian suffering. All language praising the missions was removed when the House passed the bill subsequently signed into law by then President George W. Bush. Having my article read into the congressional record was the final factor that solidified my resolve to write this book. And this was published, I think, just a couple years ago. 2015. Now for our musical offering. I love this band. It's a definitely Native American based band, Nako, and Medicine for the People.
Always give what you can, even if your allies draw lines in the sand, and dig. Always dig a little deeper. Sometimes it's hard to be my brother's keeper. Love, so you let love in. Baby, I am home in the wake of your skin, and it's crazy how we wear a ceremony. Always be open to your path and your journey. Yes, she cradles my loneliness, a home at a forest nest. Universal test, feel the weight of my love. Put your hand on my chest and rest. In the cradle of my arms, the battle that we face is a place where our scars come from. And to pick up the gun, my love, we are destined to teach these ones to be brave and never run away. Courage is birthed from the womb on the first light of day. Yeah, the day you were born, you came out perfect, never meant to be torn in silence. Never been so loud in the violence, never been so proud of our people. When we're fighting for a change, not afraid to lose it all. Despite all the rage, we are animals and we cannot be caged. Provoke us to fight, so we burn a little sage and write poetry. Wiser than the enemy will ever be. The minority and authority. Are you here to protect or arrest me? I can't tolerate the hate and I'm losing sleep. Can't breathe cause they're choking out a war in me. Immorality, yeah. Love letters to God. I wonder if she reads them or if they get lost in the stars, in the stars. Yeah. So many parts to a heavy heart. If there's no beginning, then where would you start? Where would you start? Human souls, so we carve them into story, totem poles. Cause we're always searching for a certain goal, a pattern of physics, a role. Don't believe how you're told, and open up your fist. A misconception, you can fight like this and praise. With the power of prayer, of God's on our side, we can take the stairs to the heavens. Flipping to my chapter 7, I live with the snakes in the great deception, no court. In this country for men who steal from the mother on paper with pen. And we're tripping down a red dirt road and we're asking, is this the way we should go? Kissing soft top feet, oh my God, this we walk the earth, baby, yeah, we got this focus. And it's redirected, grateful, and I'm resurrected, stubborn. But I know the way, you're the skin on my drum to your rhythm, I will sway, take my hand, I won't lead you astray. We will not go down days. Grandma's here and she says persevere. Take a walk in her mox, leaves a trail of tears, and our fears are the same as the everywhere fears. And I'm the pain of a Holocaust years. Oh
The name of that song was Love Letters to God. So hope is something that's hard to come by these days, but I find hope in seeing the one-story paradigm of history changing before our eyes in our lifetimes. The one-story version of history has always belonged to the conquerors, which is why for so many decades we celebrated Christopher Columbus Day, a brutal man who instigated mass genocide of the first Americans when he invaded this continent so many centuries ago, mistaking it for India. I certainly remember studying the guy in my earliest elementary grades and thinking he was like a total hero. He discovered America. I remember secretly wishing that I could be an explorer too. What an adventurous life, I thought. And indeed, the other unit on Indians, because this was before the term Native Americans came into our lexicon, they were always talking about them in the past tense, as if they no longer exist, which thank God is not at all the case. Though no one can argue to the contrary that their numbers were greatly diminished. But here we are now among many states and municipalities across the country that have either replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day or added it. I am, of course, all for replacing it rather than merely adding it. It is related to the rewriting of history when it comes to our statues and monuments around the country and around the world. The traditionalists bristle with fury when the Confederate or slave trading or invader statues are passionately torn down or removed. But at the heart of the matter is identity. Are we a country that celebrates hate and violence, remembers it with reverence via public artwork, or are we a country that reveres progress, that bends our moral arc toward justice, fairness, and true equality? I agree that it might make sense to put all the idols of hate in one museum. Call it the Museum of the Misguided, perhaps. Let it be a reminder, an object lesson of history such as Auschwitz and what we should never allow to happen again. The problem is we waited too long to do this. We should have done that decades ago. The frustration, despair, and anger of the present moment has drawn people to attack and destroy the ancient public symbols that never served them or served the whole of society. Holidays such as Indigenous Peoples Day strongly encourage us to think about a certain subject, much like Martin Luther King Day makes us think about racial justice, even though it's something we should give our time and attention to year round for a long time and still to this day. At any point of the year, I was drawn to anything about Native Americans and Indigenous people. It's partly why I wanted to live in Africa when I did my college semester abroad. I've always been fascinated and frankly jealous of tribal culture, where the village is everything, the heart of your world. You are surrounded by community and nature. You are never alone or lonely. You have a role, you have purpose. You are surrounded and held in relationship to the natural world and your relatives, all your relations. If such a life were offered to me by the devil and I could somehow take my kids along with me, I might just take him up on it. However, and I think I mentioned this a year ago or so for the last Indigenous Peoples Day, or maybe around Thanksgiving last year, I have come to see that my fixation with all things Native American bordered on or was a form of cultural appropriation. That's not my culture. It doesn't belong to me. I can't just take it and make it my own. Further, I shouldn't romanticize it so much. Natives get really annoyed when non-natives go to them for esoteric spiritual knowledge. They are tired of the wise old Indian image and stereotype. But I confess it is this wisdom of Native American mystique that I've always been after and still find incredibly alluring. And just in the past week, totally unsolicited, my son expressed to me on 2 separate occasions in his frustration with pandemica how fervently he wishes he could just live like the Native Americans do. He said, where you're always outside and where television and things don't exist. Of course, now most Native Americans have plenty of things and plenty of televisions. My point, though, is that even my 11-year-old son is caught up in romanticizing Native culture. But of course, he's thinking of how it was long ago or now in some isolated or protected areas of the world where Native culture has impressively remained intact for centuries. So there's a fine line between cultural appropriation and doing the good work of educating ourselves about the other, in this case, the Native. The difference is having respect for boundaries of what is only rightfully and practically theirs, such as belonging to a Native community or tribe, and what we can take. We can take the lessons of history so we fully understand just how bloody, cruel, and genocidal the development of the United States was. But we can't take their culture, their traditions. We can't pretend to be them. While I've always wanted to do a sweat lodge, for example, I worry that the cultural appropriation aspect of it renders it as mere play acting and wouldn't have any actual spiritual meaning for me. I'm a white person. It's probably better just to go to a sauna or a flotation pool and cleanse my body and soul that way, rather than imagine the power of a Native American ritual could ever truly be mine. Another example is burning sage, an act of purification. Rather than think about it as a practice of Native Americans, I think of it more as a practice of pagan tradition, which is more in alignment with my ethnicity and ancestral roots of Europe. So I'm not appropriating it from Native Americans. The point is, and this is really important, we've stolen enough from the Native Americans. And our government or corporations, they are still stealing from them, especially when it comes to polluting or ruining their waterways, their sacred burial grounds. Just like we're doing at the Mexican border right now with the president's completely stupid border wall. Occasionally, way too occasionally, there are victories for the natives, like we saw in Oklahoma over the summer, when it was decided by our Supreme Court that about half the state actually belongs to the native tribes. For once, a treaty was honored. The other huge victory, of course, in recent times is the oil pipeline that got shut down because it violated the rights of the tribes and the treaties in South Dakota. That's what the music video of NACO and Medicine for the People was that we just watched. That's what was being documented there. All those brave people who protested for weeks, months, years, enduring tear gas and treatment as though they were animals. There were even pit bulls ordered to attack them at one point. For once, they won. But it's sad that they had to struggle for what was rightfully theirs in the first place, which is, of course, the repeated history of natives since Europeans invaded. Beyond the deeper understanding of our multi-story history, for example, the real story of how Thanksgiving came to be is once again, like Columbus Day, nothing like what my kids learn about it to this day, or we did when we were kids. Check that out if you want our clearest example of whitewashed one-story history. But beyond the deeper understanding of our multi-story history, as well as understanding the contemporary Native experience in such novels like There There by Tommy Orange, that dispel the romantic overlay that we place on Native culture, perhaps there is something else that we can rightfully use for ourselves. I think of them as universal values of the human spirit, but that were certainly the common thoughtways of most Indigenous cultures. Values that can save us, because of course, one of them is reverence for the earth and the natural world, which again, I can place in the camp of paganism and feel more comfortable with that. But another, and this one is also very African, is reverence for our ancestors and paying homage to them. Reverence too for our elders, which builds a society that values wisdom over youthfulness and frivolity. Finally, and we have this as our seventh principle, reverence for the interconnectedness of everything. How we, all inhabitants of the earth, are our relations. We are part of everything, and everything is a part of us. Understanding this leads to valuing what's best for the common good, putting larger purposes before our self-serving, smaller ones. These universal values of the human spirit have their origins in First Peoples, but they are the ones that, if we propagate now, can help guide our misguided Western notion of so many things. There's a lot of great stuff about Western thinking. Of course, it's not all bad. But just the notion of human dominion over the earth, just that alone has been hugely problematic for humanity and the natural world, and may indeed someday spell our end. So to recap, study Native American anything. Even though I'm wary of committing cultural appropriation, there's nothing wrong with reading some of the very great literature of Native American spirituality that exists out there. If it inspires us to be better people, go for it. We just have to be careful when we enact rituals or approach Native people, expecting that they would accept us or teach us, or frankly, even talk to us. Also, check out the literary fiction or memoirs that describe the Native American experience. This ensures that we get out of the one-story version of history, much like when we read about the African American experience. Religious liberals are interested in the most accurate story because we care deeply about the truth, about reality, so we can know how to respond to it, how to progress and lift everyone up. To conclude, I just want to say how much I love the John Trudell quotation at the beginning of the Love Letters to God video. John Trudell is one of the great authors of the Native American experience. He said, "No matter what they ever do to us, we must always act for the love of our people and for the earth. We must not react out of hatred against those who have no sense." I realized the verity of this statement, especially last week, when, yes, I'll confess, I secretly hoped our president might not survive the COVID. Perhaps some of you also shared this thought. As soon as I uttered it to a friend in a text, I could feel myself literally sinking to that level, the level of base hatred. I texted my friend back right away to take it back. I softened it by telling her, I just hope he gets locked up eventually. Is that still hateful? Perhaps, probably, but better than wishing death on another human being. Friends, no matter how frustrated we become with our leadership or the mobs of hate, it is perhaps the most important spiritual value of all, that we always take the high road, or what the natives call the red road, and respond and react with love, nonviolence, and compassion. We show up for what is just, we stand our ground, we peacefully protest. But we do not hit back or hate back. If we do this, the fate of this country and humanity as a whole is uncertain indeed. So, happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Take some time tomorrow to read about Native Americans, read their literature, watch something educational, watch more YouTube videos of Naka medicine for the people. I also have an amazing book list. Anyone needs recommendations. Let us continue to rewrite history, the multiple stories, the real history, the true history of our country and our world. Amen. And now let's sing our last hymn. A reminder to our newcomers or anyone who would like to go into a breakout room after the service, just to raise your hand. And final benediction. For those who seek God, may your God go with you. For those who embrace life, may life return your affection. And for those who seek a better path, may you find that path and the courage to take it, step by step by step. Amen.